Welcome to AM. My name's Richard Conway, and this is the platform for age group multisport athletes to showcase their journeys. Welcome along to episode 40 of the Age Group Multisport podcast, and thank you for all your support. We've finally hit 40. It's a milestone. It's not a big milestone, but since we started this in May of 2020, when lockdown was in place, we didn't know where it was going to go, and we've done all right. We've got quite a few listeners, and we've had some fantastic guests on, and I'd just like to thank them all for coming on and sharing their fantastic stories. So on episode 40 we've got an age grouper. If you remember, the last episode was a special with Athletica AI and HIT guru Paul Lawson. I hope you enjoyed that one. It was really interesting to hear Paul's thoughts on where he was going to take Athletica AI and the background behind it. Great platform. I'm on it, and if you haven't heard of it, go back and listen to that episode and check it out. athleticai.com. This episode we've got an age grouper on, and as I said, quite a special one to me. This is one of my training partners, a long-time friend, and an inspiration to everybody who's met him. Basically, he's on in years in the age group categories. He won't mind me saying that, and he just doesn't stop. He's fantastic. He trains with us a couple of times a week. We swim together. And then we do a track session on a Saturday morning, which includes sprints. And seeing somebody like this guy putting the effort in and the consistency is inspiring to everybody. So I hope you enjoy his story. The man in question is John Sharp, who's an age grouper and has raced all around the world. And he is just... I want to be like him when I'm his age, put it that way. Something to aim for. So that's coming up. Things are going okay. Training wise, we're carrying on with the physio, and the legs getting better each week, and the running is improving. We're getting to run longer, we're getting to run faster, and there's not as much aching, so that's good. Still cracking on with the yoga and strength training at the Meridian Leisure Centre, local leisure centre, which is a great facility. And swimming and running and biking and all the usual. So weather's took a turn for the worst. At the weekend it was snowing, and then it went back up to about 10 degrees. And then we've had snow this morning as I'm recording this. So, I think in December we've done quite well. And, I think winter's upon us. Christmas is around the corner, so we can't really expect much else. Been listening to a couple of good podcasts the last week while I've been working. And the first one is a one called the Human Performance Triathlon podcast by Simon Ward, and he's always a good listen. And on this episode he had Johnny Brownlee. I haven't really heard too many interviews by Johnny Brownlee, but it's quite interesting, down to earth as you would expect. True Yorkshireman, no airs, no graces, just loves what he does. And he was talking about how he got through lockdown. And most interesting I found was when he was discussing the episode when Alistair picked him up and took him across the line. and he was saying that it's took him nearly 4 years to get over that. The dehydration had a massive effect on his performance, which is a bit of an eye-opener, really, to see somebody of that calibre really suffer. And he said it's only the last, I don't know, year or so that he's felt anything like his old self, so when he's been racing. So, but it's good to see he's come out the other side of it all, and yeah, really good interview. So if you have chance, listen to that, the Simon Ward Human Performance podcast. And then the other podcast that I've listened to, or one of them that I've listened to recently, was the Geraint Thomas Cycling podcast, and he has a different guest on each week, and it's very funny, very entertaining. And I don't know whether you saw on Instagram, he'd put up pictures of him sat in the back of an Uber. His bike had been nicked, so he was explaining about that and how it had all unfolded. So he got his bike back, thankfully. Quite an expensive Pinarello. The police found a 14-year-old riding along the road on it. Obviously took a shine to Geraint's bike and thought he'd have a go. And these police pulled the kid over and obviously took his bike and informed Geraint that they'd found his bike, and so off he went to pick it up. So yeah, and then he posted later on Instagram some pictures with the police that had found his bike, and yeah, so it can happen to the best of us. If you don't look after your equipment, lock it up. There's a tip. Lock it up. And then finally, at the end of the show, we've got another life hack. And on this episode, our life hack is going to be a relaxation method that I've found, and it's called Yoga Nidra. And I do quite a bit of yoga, but I'd never heard of this. And Mrs. C, she calls it a nana nap. And basically that's what it is. It's I found some on YouTube, and you're just basically listening to somebody's voice. So that's going to be the lifestyle hack. We'll have a chat about that after the main event, which is coming up now. Hope you enjoy this one. Really top bloke, like I said, inspiring to everybody, and I hope you get something out of it. And yeah, see you on the other side. Welcome along to episode 40 of AMP, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce friend and training partner John Sharp.
Thank you very much. Yes, no, nice to be here.
Yeah. So we'll just crack straight on into the brief history of what you did as a kid growing up.
Okay.
And how you got into multisport.
Right. Well, story starts really at school, I suppose. School was interesting from a sports point of view because it was a chore for the teachers, and basically we did very little. Any excuse for the teachers not to do it, they didn't.
Sure. Just to give some context, John, what time was this? What? Not without revealing your age.
This would be, shall we say 1947 onwards?
Yeah.
I know a bit later than that, actually, 1950 onwards, not 47. That's, from starting school, really, there was very, very little emphasis given to sport in those days. Yeah. Everything was so different to what it is now, you know. So on from there, really, when I was 15 year old, I started playing tennis. I did play for a local club until around about 17 or 18. I didn't stick it for long, to be honest, but got to a reasonable standard. And then after that, I got interested in music, and music really took over from that age onwards. And from then until I would say my mid-40s, when a bricklayer who I employed was a golfer, persuaded me to try and hit a golf ball. And much to my disgust, my wife hit it far better than I did. Then I actually got into golf and sort of got reasonably competent at golf. I played quite a few competitions. My wife did as well, and she did better than I did, really. Got through to national championships. As things do, you play golf. I played golf for some 10, 15 years, something, 10, 12 years maybe. And then these things do a natural turnaround, and then a friend of mine had a windsurfing set, and he said, "Why don't you have a go at this?" So I started windsurfing, and never was really very brilliant at it. Richard Hobson will tell you. I sort of kept that up for a few years, and then naturally, as things do, it turned over again, you know. Then when I got to being in my mid-60s, the dogs that we had then, I used to walk up the lane every day like everybody does, you know, and got to thinking, well, if I can walk up here, I'm way overweight, why don't I run a bit, you know?
Right, okay.
And that's how it all started, really. And I to start with, I could run maybe 10 yards would be, and that was maybe an exaggeration. And then beyond that, I got to run a bit further, and then got to run a couple of miles and a few miles, and thought no more after that, but still continued to run just for pleasure, really.
You enjoyed it? I
enjoyed it, yeah. And then I met... I actually was still playing in bands at that point, and I met a guy, a drummer, called Steve Johnson, and I got to know him quite well, and we became really good friends. And he said to me one night, Steve, our lad, he's an ex-runner and quite a decent ex-marathon runner. And he said to me one night, I'm going to enter a triathlon. Do you fancy doing with me? And I said, no, not really, because I can't swim the length of a pool.
And at that point, as you heard about triathlons then? Yeah,
it was starting to get popular.
So what sort of period was that?
That would be about 9 years ago. It would be about 9 years ago, so I'd be 67, 60... Yeah, I was 67, I think.
Oh yeah, when you first started. Yeah.
And that was the first triathlon, and Steve said to me, well, you'll have to learn how to swim a bit better, so I spent 4 nights a week at the leisure centre.
Right, and did you have lessons then?
Steve, to be fair, taught me to start with, because I literally could not swim the length of the pool, and I had 3.5 months to do it
before the triathlon.
Before I had 400 metres to swim.
Was that the local Louth triathlon?
That was a Louth triathlon. And no, I'm misleading you there. It wasn't. It was Brig. I'm sure it was, actually, thinking back. It was Brig. Age group, and I wouldn't mind, mainly because there was limited numbers in my...
I remember the picture, I think, of you getting your trophy. But I can't remember which one it was.
No, I can't. You know,
so that was the first one.
That was from memory. That was my first. Because I'll reiterate. Actually, my first one was going to be Woodhall Spa. But the day Steve did it, and Gillian. Gillian, she did it. But it was a horrendous day, and I will admit I pulled out of it. I didn't start.
Didn't fancy
it. Was horrendous. and so that led me on to brig. Would be brig when
so
I did the next one.
You still had something that you want to get off your,
Yeah,
off your chest because
right,
you didn't do that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. After that, then I sort of got the bug really, and triathlon was beginning to figure in television and basically, and of course, when you become interested in something, you look for it.
Would have been round about the Olympics time then, was it?
Do you know, I can't answer that, Richard. I really can't. It would be 9 years ago. Yes, it would be.
Probably would be around that time.
Yeah. Yes, it probably would be, yeah. But it started to be like a lot of these sports, isn't it? They're gaining popularity.
Yeah, and, I mean, once they get into the Olympics, that's it, isn't it? Especially when you have the Brownlee brothers that
absolutely. And of course, that all started up at that point. You would be about right. And it fuels your enthusiasm for doing it, doesn't it? You know? And from then on, I just started to enter as much as I could.
Yeah.
And then within my age group capacity, doing reasonably well, then I started to look for qualifiers. Right. You know.
So just going back to your first one, did you just train on your own? Did you have any plans? Or
no.
What was because obviously Steve was helping you with the swimming.
Yeah, my plan was to be able to swim 400 metres and the rest
you nailed that. What about the bike? You'd already started running. What about the bike then?
Yeah, I mean, like everybody, most people can ride a bike, you know, and that was it. Yeah. I did a little bit of training, but nothing like what has developed, you know, over
so
the time.
when did that? Because I'm trying to, obviously knowing you, I'm trying to find out. Because I did a taster that the leisure centre had put on with Doug.
Oh yes, I remember that. Yeah,
and then I think you did you do a taster day after that?
No, I've never done a taster day. No.
So how did the because you started the club, didn't you?
I did. Yeah.
So how did that come about?
It came about by actually Gillian and myself. Gillian Fuster, that is. She was, once I'd started swimming, she came to me. Or her husband said to me, "Oh, Gillian really wants to do a triathlon," and she'd never trained or anything before. And he said, "You know, what are you doing? How are you?" I said, "Well, I'm just running, you know, and things." And Gillian and myself started to train together. And at her suggestion, she said, "Shall we go to the spinning class at Meridian?" Which we did. And which was really good actually. And after the second or third time there, this guy we kept meeting there, we got chatting to, who subsequently turned out to be Simon Sharp, and no relation, although he still insists he's my son. But we knocked our heads together and said, why don't we start a triathlon club? And that's how it started. And it started in the passageway upstairs at the Meridian Centre. And then the Meridian Centre, can't remember his name now, it was... Chris. It was Chris, said, "Oh, you can have this meeting room," and a few interested parties came together, and that's how the club started. Right. With Simon being the first chairman, of course. Well, he was chairman for 2 years.
He was,
yeah. And the rest history, as they say, with the club. Yeah.
So, and I think going back to then going into the age group, I think you were probably one of the first within the club to actually race
qualify.
Qualify and then race.
Yeah, that's right.
So how did you find out about age group to begin with?
Age group. Do you know, I honestly can't tell you. I think it came about through British Triathlon Federation. I think it would be probably something I read, or it was getting general knowledge within the club about it.
Yeah.
And my first qualifier was at Rutland.
Yeah.
Rutland Water. It was Dambuster. And
was that Olympic distance?
It was.
Yeah.
Sprints I find difficult because I'm not fast enough. You know.
And what was that a qualifier for?
That was a qualifier for the World Championships. Right. Yeah.
In
Chicago, believe it or not.
I do believe it. I think you mentioned it once or twice. Yeah. So going back, I think it was you were probably the one of the first.
Yes. Yeah.
To actually get the kit, and then it sort of inspired a lot of us to what's John doing?
What's he done?
what's he done? So, and that inspired a lot of us to actually find out and make our own way.
It did. There seemed. I mean, there was quite a few qualified after that.
There was
with great lot of success.
Yeah.
I do remember that, just going back to when we first started the club, that I was a member at Meridian, and in the changing room, in the members' changing room, I met a young man in there who was just recovering from a motorcycle accidents, which he apparently regularly had because he raced motorcycles. And I did say to him, "Had you ever fancied doing triathlon?" Which of course was Ross.
Right.
And he joined the club after that, and the rest is history for him, because he's done extremely well. You know.
Yeah, he's been successful this year, hasn't he? Was he British champion?
Absolutely, yeah. And he was in from the start, really, you know. And then various people who you can go back to now when you start to remember. You know.
I think there must have been a good 8 to 10.
Oh, I mean, from the start, we were so lucky that there were athletes, really. John Broomfield, for one. I mean, phenomenal athlete, and he's done incredibly well, you know. And we had a nucleus of maybe half a dozen athletes who were extremely good from a standing start, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And I think we were envy of a lot of clubs at that time, you know. Craig Oliver, he used to be a member in those days, you know, a swimmer who you know, without match, as far as I've seen, you
Absolutely, know. There wasn't anybody faster than Craig,
Julian Harriet and people like that. I mean, they were all incredible athletes.
Yeah, I suppose when you think about it, there was probably more than 8 to 10.
There probably was.
Well over a dozen.
Yeah, when you look back, you know, which are now a Boston Tri Club, of course, those ones, but they were all out at one point, you know.
Because that was the only club around, wasn't it, other than Grimsby? There wasn't any other.
I don't think even Grimsby was on the go then.
Yeah, there were. Yeah,
were they?
Yeah, there were,
right.
Yeah, because Tracy was a member of them.
Oh, was it Cleethorpes? They were.
Yeah, Cleethorpes weren't.
Wasn't. No, that's right. Yeah, yeah. But we had an actual plethora of incredible athletes, and I think we were the envy of a lot of clubs at that time. You know?
It was really good. So your experience spurred you on, didn't it? I remember you came back and you're absolutely buzzing after racing in the Worlds and.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know I bang on about Chicago a bit, but and it raises a smile with a lot of people, but I don't mind. You know, that was an incredible experience, and probably still the best by a long chalk.
Do you think that was because it's your first, or because of where it was?
Both, I think. I was lucky to have Ross there as well, who gave me quite a bit of support, and several of the Brits contingent there that once they know that you've never done anything like that before, it was a phenomenal experience, incredibly well organised, and to actually race cycle through the middle of Chicago, you know, on private roads was just an experience to behold, you know. Be it there was a section through an underground car park, which a lot of cyclists came to grief on, because you went from bright sunlight into black. And there was a hairpin bend, I always remember it, you dropped down into this car park, and it was just black. Unfortunately, it was a hairpin left, and several cyclists didn't realise and rode straight into the wall at the end.
Oh dear.
Yeah, one Japanese guy, who in particular, he was littered all over the floor when I got to him, but he was okay, but he'd just smashed the bike completely. Yeah.
Unfortunate.
But yes, that was an experience. Yeah, it was.
And since then you've done how many more?
How many more worlds have I done?
Well, just general work representing.
4 or 5, I think now. Yeah. In duathlon as well as as triathlon. Yeah, brilliant experience. I would recommend it if anybody can qualify. Do it.
Yeah.
You know, and okay, you might not win, but if you're there doing it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's all levels, isn't it? You know,
It is. Some
people are just gifted and they can go to the first one and pull off the big one. You know, other
Absolutely.
people can be racing for years and never even get on the podium, but it doesn't matter because you know you've put the effort in to get to wear that kit and get to that race.
Absolutely.
And that's what matters, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
You know, we'd all love to be on the podium, but it's just not. There's only 3 spots.
There is indeed.
Only 3 spots.
Yeah.
So,
and it's about enjoyment, really. At the end of the day, you do it for yourself, you know. And if you're successful at it, fine, you know. But in the meantime, you get to see places you would never get to do, and to cycle places you would never get to do. You know.
That's right.
Yeah. So all in all, it brings us. Well, that brought us up to really the lockdown, didn't it? And then everything stopped.
That's right. Yeah, unfortunately. But I think we're quite lucky because it's so ingrained in us now that even though lockdown, we still, because it's part of what we do, innit? And if we don't cycle, swim and run, then you become a bit frustrated, don't you?
You do, yeah.
And I know it's sort of like, we knocked it back quite a bit because we had to, but even so,
indeed,
we're still doing as much as we could, I guess.
I lost a bit of momentum, I will admit.
Yeah.
After the lockdown and what have you, and everything just kept cancelled, though. The Worlds was cancelled 3 times, I think, now, that should have gone to Canada. But and then you sort of think, well, you know, what am I training for, really? And I did lose a momentum, I will say that. And started about a couple of months, 3 months ago now. And started again, really.
Yeah. So what are we aiming for then?
For next year, well, it just depends what's on. You know,
what would you like to go for?
I would like to do a cross tri. Really, that's really one of my aims. Whether it's year or the following year, whatever happens to come up that isn't cancelled.
Well, yeah.
And I've always wanted to do the winter triathlon, but qualifying from a skiing point of view is going to be difficult, unless I can get them to accept roller skis. Roller skiing, and even then your choice is limited in this country anyway. It is difficult. I mean, I have a background in skiing, and I'm sure I'm well enough to do it, but they just don't seem to accept that, you know. Anyway, that's for the future. If I can, I will. You know, I shall go for it.
Well, it's something to aim for, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is.
Cool. Well, good luck with that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So, what's your favourite bit of kit that you've
favourite bit of kit
you've had, or you've got, or you want?
Yeah, new bike. We always want a new bike, don't we? Everybody wants a new bike.
N+1.
Which we were saying that the difference between me. A 2 grand bike and a 10 grand bike was maybe 2 seconds, and case in point I was going to do a name drop about Rotterdam World Championships, was that when we came out the swim I was about 8th in my age group, and of course you were all racked together, and as we got on the bike I was in front by maybe 30 seconds. That's how much you can make in transition. You know, there was so slow getting the wetsuits off that it just gave me that impetus, like, you know. And it just reiterates the point that spending 10 grand on a bike to save 2 seconds is pointless.
Absolutely.
Really, you know what I mean? As much as I'd love to.
As we all would.
As much as I'd love to. Yeah. So
your bike basically is your favourite.
Yeah, it's got to be, hasn't it, really? Because it's the only bit that although everything can make a difference, everything. I mean, I've tried every bottle cage imaginable and made some. You know. But you get down to whatever you feel comfortable with.
I think that's the key, isn't it? All these things can save time, and obviously the more expensive, usually the lighter and quicker and better they are. but at the end of the day, it's what you can do with that piece of equipment, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Another thing that I don't use, which 99.9% of triathletes do use, and that is clip-in pedals.
Yeah.
I don't use clip-in pedals.
And why is that then?
I found, especially for sprints, that once you're out the swim, and you're trying to get into your bike shoes, and then for clip-ins, and then when you come back you've got to change shoes again. I found that putting my running shoes on, and I adapted some cage pedals that fit my running shoes exactly and give me nearly as much lift as you would get on a clip-in. I don't see the advantage. I think at my level, I will add.
That's it, isn't it? It's all about what works for you. People might look at that and think, well.
And some people are uncomfortable using clip-ins, especially the beginners.
Definitely. I think we've all been there. Where we've started with clip-ins, and then you end up falling off. But that's a rite of passage, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I've been there. I've done that. But yes. So generally speaking, I don't use clip-ins. I keep threatening to try it again, but I really don't see at my level the advantage, to be honest.
Interesting.
Yeah, because when you think about it, I mean, I don't know how you, when you're climbing, I'm consciously pull up when I remember. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that whole cycle, as in one rotation on the pedal, I think either, unless it's ingrained, and it's a skill that you've got to learn.
Absolutely.
To be able to not just push down, but also scrape back and pull up.
Yes.
That's the whole thing. So you're not pedalling squares, you're actually pedalling circles.
Yes.
And it isn't a natural thing that you would do.
That's right.
And it's like I've just said, it's a skill that you've got to practice. So
yes, indeed. I tried oval front chain rings. And actually I liked them, but I made the mistake of getting the wrong size, and it was too big a gear for me. So I actually got rid of them, and I haven't bought any smaller ones yet, but I will say I did like them. I did like them.
I mean, that's another thing that some people like and some people don't like.
It feels weird. It does feel weird, but I
think
found
it's all personal choice.
It is, I agree.
There's so much to go at, isn't there, on kit, that what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for
absolutely
for others,
and it's very much down to how and what sort of distances you've done. I've never done anything longer than a Olympic distance, but I can imagine middle distance is a different set again.
On that, do you think you will?
I've always thought I might do. I've always thought I might give one a go. I've run one half marathon, which nearly killed me, mainly because I didn't prepare for it. But
that's the thing, isn't it? With these distances, you've got to go all in and just actually.
You've got
like everything. You've got to.
I've never run that distance in my life, and thought that would be a good idea, and didn't prepare for it, and paid the price. Really, I got there, but it wasn't the quickest of times. I was aiming for 2 hours, and it ended up at 2 hours and 20. 20 minutes disappeared somewhere.
20 minutes disappeared because you didn't give it the training.
Oh no, nothing.
You've got to respect the distances as well.
Absolutely. You think, oh, it's only 2 10Ks or whatever it is. Or
Cool. So, what advice, hints, tips would you give to new people wanting to get into triathlon or multisport, and for those who are in it already and like to qualify for Agegroup?
I think for newbies, just do what I did, give it a try. Excuse the pun. And give it a go, even on a super sprint. A short one if you're not confident to do any further than that. The go tries.
There's lots of them about now.
There is a lot about, and just give it a try. Don't spend a lot of money, give it a go and see how you get on. And often as not, you'll get hooked off that one. Like I did, really. As for what was the other?
The other question was for those who are already in tri,
to qualify.
who want to qualify
Yeah.
for age group.
Qualifications very much of if you, depending on what age group you're in, of course. I mean, some of them are like phenomenal. I mean, like yours.
When you say phenomenal, you mean competitive?
Yeah, phenomenally
lots,
competitive.
Lots in their age group.
Yeah, lots, and some incredible talent, even at older age groups. You know, I mean, I look at even in my age group, which is getting on.
You're allowed to say it.
A runner I came across in my age group who was it was a qualifier at Leeds, and his 10k time was like 44. I mean, I can't get anywhere near that. Yeah. You know, that is a phenomenal run. You know, for somebody of my age. So these are the people you find. There isn't many in the country that, you know, are exceptionally quick. They're usually in different races, aren't they? But yeah, just give it a go, innit it? Really, enter for qualifiers, and then go from there. Really, and it's just do your best.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
Yeah, and often as not, you'll maybe look at the start list and think. You'll see some names crop up time and time again, and you'll see some that you know are way quicker than you are, but they're maybe not entered the qualifier. Yeah. A lot of people think, oh, I'm not going to qualify because of so-and-so or so-and-so, so-and-so. Yeah. But then you find that they're actually only racing. They're not looking to qualify. Yeah,
because they don't want to go to where the competition's
absolutely.
Been held, or the final or whatever's been held.
So you could end up actually being his first qualifier.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
A lot of people make that mistake, you know, and think, oh, I'll never win that. No point in me entering that. Yeah. But then, if their name's not on the qualifying list...
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Just put your tenner in and see what happens.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. That's all it is. £10 to...
Absolutely.
You know, and then just do your best.
Yes.
And you never know.
No, you don't. Yeah.
You might...
And, of course, you can pick your events.
Of course.
You know,
I think that's quite a strategic thing, though, isn't it? That's quite key.
A lot of people do that. A lot of people do it. I've come across that a lot. Specifically to areas, some of the people from the big cities, you know, they do find these little outlying events where there's maybe very little competition, if you like, just to qualify. Yeah. You know, which is fine. You can only race who's there.
That's it. You can only you can only beat who's in front of you. That's all you can do.
Indeed. Yeah.
With everybody. So.
Indeed. Yeah.
Cool. Good. What resources, and it could be books, could be podcasts, could be videos, have you used over the years, and would you recommend for people listening?
From a personal point of view, the swim training has been critical for me because I wasn't a swimmer. Yeah. Period. Steve Johnson will tell you that. I used to wonder on how he could swim crawl, you know. So beyond that, I've had one-to-ones with coaches. Not many, but I think one is sufficiently if they point you in the right direction, because there is a limit to what you can achieve in a short time. Yeah. And you know that, Richard, don't you? Yeah. It's like, you know, when they're telling you to change something, it's taken me 3 years to change, you know. Yeah. Because you get into a way of swimming, and I think that really is the most critical. Yeah. Cycling, bike fit. Yeah. I would say within certain parameters. Every bike fit, I think I've had 2 bike fits in my time, and they were both different. It's a bit like coaches. Bike fitters are the same. They've all got an idea of how you should be. Yeah. I don't know whether you've found that, but I've found that.
Definitely, I've had, like you, I've had a few, and they've all been different. And after listening to quite a lot and researching about bike fits, they recommend that you should have a bike fit every year.
They do, yeah. I don't, but
Well, no, I don't either.
Because I think you find parameters where you think, oh, I'm maybe just a little bit on the seat, or a little bit up or down, or backwards or forwards, and that's usually the bit that you adjust the most, isn't it? Because it's the easiest, you know.
I think if you
stem length, I will say, I've played around with stem lengths, and I'm now, as I get older, I'm getting a bit shorter. I'm not laying down so much as I used to. I don't find it so easy. Over the 9 years that I've been doing it, I've definitely become a little bit more upright. I will say that. But I think that's something that happens with age.
Oh yeah, well, there's all these things, isn't it? It's like flexibility and your body changes, and there's things you best will in the world you can't do that you used to be able to do 5-10 years ago.
Absolutely,
so, we all have got that to look forward to.
So I've lifted handlebars slightly, maybe 2 or 3 spaces, and shortened my stem length a bit to what I used to be. Definitely, but other than that. Never done any bike, never had any coaching from a bike point of view. No. And the only running coaching I've had is from other members and
of the club.
Of the club really. Who you will find are, I mean, most members will, if they'll help, they will do.
That's the point of being in the club, isn't it?
Yeah. So my Achilles heel really was swimming. You know.
What did you? I mean, just going back to the question, what resources have you used, sort of like from books and things? And
not being a great reader, I will admit. Mainly YouTube, I would say. Yeah.
I mean, there's loads on there.
So much information and a lot of conflicting information.
Well, as with everything, that's.
But you find, there again, you find what suits you, don't you? And running was quite interesting. I found on YouTube. Mainly your attitude, your physical attitude when you're upright or just leaning slightly forwards. That was something I came across that I didn't realise. And when you think about it, if you don't lean forward, you don't run, do you?
No, you've got to have that.
You can't lean
tilt
forward
on you and go.
Yeah. And I found I was running slightly upright, or maybe but then again, changing it's so difficult because you
very difficult.
Yeah.
It's like people say, oh, you're heel striking, and you should be running on midfoot or front foot. But
that's right. So
difficult.
Very difficult. Yeah.
Because you've run all your life, haven't you? The way you run, and it's like really takes. And it's going back to that. I guess swimming is pointing in case you've got to read. Oh, sorry, we were talking about the pedal stroke as well, weren't we?
Yes.
It's going back to that. You've really got to focus and hone and learn and
absolutely
and just
and your
practice.
body. Your body learns, doesn't it? It's muscle memory, really, isn't it?
It is. That's exactly what it is.
But achieving muscle memory in no matter what you do, is difficult. And we all do it eventually and probably we don't realise we're doing it. But it is one of those things. But other than that, you look at other athletes on the television, like the Browners, as you said, and Blumenfeld and people like that, and you think, how on earth do they go that quick?
They're just it's like everything, every sport, the cream of the crop, isn't it? You can only aspire and just look in awe, and that's it. And that's.
But I mean, I must admit, my mentality. I was talking to somebody about this the other night. And they asked me actually, how do you keep motivated? And I said, well, to be perfectly honest, I'm 26. I'm not the age I am. I'm 26. And I'm looking at people in the other lanes when I'm swimming and thinking, why can't I swim as fast as that? You forget all about,
none of us,
rightly or wrongly.
Well, no, I think it's just a natural thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
None of us it's not admitting that you're as old as you are, but you just don't think.
No, I don't think that way. Yeah, I don't think that way.
You don't think,
I must admit.
God, I'm like.
Yeah. Oh, I can't do that.
I'm in me 50s, I'm in me 60s, I'm in me 70s. I can't do that. But that's people's attitude, isn't it? They get to a certain age, and they think, well, I can't do that because society pretty much says, well, you should be doing that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
What the hell are you doing?
Yeah,
what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's why, people like you are so inspiring to to us and have been for years, because you keep going and you sort of like led the way in the first place, but just to watch you keep going is an inspiration for us to do. Well, actually, it can be done, and you're all the better for it.
Yeah, I must admit,
we've got to keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, age never enters into it for me.
I think that's such a good attitude to have.
I'm lucky, really. I inherited it from my mother. My mother was just the same, and she was still working when she was 96, and
that's amazing.
All in all, very lucky.
That's good.
And lucky to stay injury free, really.
Yeah. I think that's the key, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Key part, trying to stay injury free.
Yeah.
I know you've sort of answered this final question already, because you'd mentioned about you wanting to do your cross tries and is it cross try for skiing as well? Is that
no? I think call it winter triathlon.
Winter triathlon. Yeah. But longer, so that's like probably next year. So longer term, what would you like to do? What's your goal? I suppose. What's the big goal that you? If you could set yourself a big goal.
A big goal is to keep doing what I'm doing, Richard. I'll be honest. If the opportunity arises where I'll maybe try middle distance, if I think I could stay that distance, then I'll do it. It certainly isn't off the radar, but I would. My big issue with that would be the run. I can manage the rest. The swim and the bike is not a big problem, but the run, not being a natural runner, I'll be the first to hold my hands up and say that.
Do you find out of all three then that's the one that you struggle with the most?
For me, yes, definitely. Yeah, it is. When I first started, I thought it'd be the swim, but it's definitely the run. I think although I've changed, like you have, changed my swim style a bit now, whereas I'm not probably exerting so much effort. But I've always found the run, especially after doing a hard swim and a hard bike. My bike's always been my stronger part out of the three, really. That's where I gain my time. But I put so much into it that I'm not being a natural runner. You're struggling to start with, really.
Maybe that's something you need to look at then.
Definitely
going forward, not putting as much out.
Yeah, somebody else has said that to me. As don't put so much effort in.
Back off, and that gives you a bit more.
Yes, indeed. Cool.
Well, thank you ever so much for your time. I think that's a
pleasure.
Great place to land it.
Absolute pleasure.
Are you all right about it? Everything?
Yeah, absolutely.
Happy? Good. Yeah. So that's it, really. Thanks, John, for coming on. Absolutely love that. It's a pleasure as always to be in your company, and I learnt a few things there that I didn't know about you, and hope I'm like John at that age and still full of life and still want to try new things. Really enjoyed it. So on to the lifestyle hack, and this episode we've got Yoga Nidra, and like I said earlier, I do yoga at least 3 or 4 times a week, and some of the benefits of doing this have been stated as anyone can do it, basically, from children up to seniors. It's easy to follow for any age. All you need to do is lie down basically and listen. And even if you can't lie down on the floor, you can still do the practice seated. So they reckon you can't practice Yoga Nidra incorrectly because it's just a relaxed state. And it's easy to incorporate into your everyday life. So you pick a time when you've got 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes, up to an hour if you want, or as long as you like, and just find a YouTube video like I've done and just get on with it. It's a simple way to reduce your stress, and I feel really refreshed after I've done it. So have a look at that, give it a go, and that's our lifestyle hack. of this episode. So that's it for another episode. Thank you very much for listening, and if you'd like to leave a message or a thumbs up, or actually subscribe, just head over to Apple Podcast and give us a rating, and it helps us to get the podcast out to more like-minded people. And if you want to get in touch, you can email us at agegroupmultisportpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at amp_1967. We're on Facebook at ampgb, and we're on Twitter at Agegroup Multisport Podcast, and we've got our own YouTube channel, which is ampgb. And like I said, if you'd like to get in touch, you can drop us an email at agegroupmultisportpodcast@gmail.com. And that's about it for another episode. We shall see you next time, and don't forget, stay safe, keep training, and love the process.